again, beautiful. Welcome to another Thursday Talks with me, Suzanna Kaye, Professional Organizer. Today, we are talking about sentimental items and how to get through them. Now, today's talk is based on a question I received by email from one of our community members, Jen. So we will be going a little bit more in depth into her question and some ways that you can deal with these sentimental items and getting through all of them. So if you have a hard time letting go of sentimental items or organizing the sentimental items that you've kept, this one is for you. So we are going to be talking about the three main things that I want you to know about the topic. And then for my members, all of my Pathfinders, you can join me afterwards at noon in our private group to continue the discussion. All right, so let's talk really quickly. As you hop on, let me know who you are, where you're joining me from. I see Ruth is here from Arizona. Hi, Ruth. Great to have you joining us. And Susan's here. Welcome. Love to see the familiar faces and the new ones. Hey, Tina. Good to see you again also. Fantastic. All right, so like I mentioned, this is based on an email that I received from one of our community members, Jen. Now, Jen wrote, I'm just going to paraphrase some of it and read some of the highlights, that she struggles the most with organizing photos and memory-related items. Her background is that her immediate family members are all gone and she can't throw out anything related to them. She's extremely sentimental and it's overwhelming, and she gets into organizing for an hour or two and then stops because she's exhausted, or she has to stop because of real life duties, and it's hard to jump back in where she stopped. She's tried going through a box a day, and that's been really hard to follow through on. So she's thinking maybe a box a week is a better goal, like every Saturday morning. Her current strategy is to assign one box to each family member to fill and keep. And her method of sorting is if it makes her smile or cry, that's a sign to keep it. But she wants to know any advice that I have. And this was such a good question, Jen, that I had to share it with the community because I know that you are not alone in this one, for sure. These are the questions that I hear so often. So I wanted to highlight a few things out of Jen's letter to start with that will start off our talking points and then share a couple of additional thoughts and ideas about sentimental papers and items with you. Really quickly, I wanted to also say hi to the people who joined in. Lori's here. Hi, Lori and Jane, Rosila and Sally and Peggy, a fellow Floridian, and Lavette. Great to see you all. If you have any questions or comments as we go along, if you can relate to any of this, please let me know in the comments. I always love to hear that. But there are a couple of things I wanted to highlight from Jen's email. There are some couple of things that I think highlight possibly where some of the struggle is occurring. So Jen and everybody, it says it's overwhelming and she gets into organizing for an hour or two and stops because she's exhausted. Later on, she goes on to, she's tried going through a box a day and that's been hard to follow through on. And what this tells me is most likely you're biting off too large of a chunk, especially with emotional items. So when we're working with items that are emotional or really difficult for us to let go of, they don't even have to be sentimental items. Maybe it's just items that you always have had a difficult time parting with. Maybe purses and shoes are really hard for you to make decisions on. Those types of items, as well as things with any sort of emotional memory attached, you need to give yourself smaller time chunks to work on them, because not only is your brain trying to make the decisions based on logic and keep or go, but your brain also has so much more that it's trying to process as well. It's not like when you're organizing your pantry where it's more of a keep or go and logic can kick in and you don't have to worry as much about the emotions. When it's emotional, you now are doubling or tripling or even more that brain power required. So having a 2-hour time chunk will be very exhausting with sentimental items. Or one box a day, that's also a very big commitment for your emotions, your mental energy, your brain. That's a lot to take on. I love that you are so committed to doing this that you are pushing yourself to try to do these longer time chunks. But I think it's going to be so much easier for you. You'll feel better about the process. You'll be more successful and you'll make better decisions if you break these down into smaller chunks. And these small chunks can be as small as 15 to 30 minutes at a time. So instead of looking for that 2-hour project, maybe 15 minutes, 30 minutes, or 5 or 10 items from a box instead of an entire box. The nice thing is, Jen, you did a really good job noticing this yourself. In the end of the letter, you said maybe 1 box a week is a better goal. That is absolutely a better goal. And that box does not have to be done all at once. So maybe throughout the week, when you have time, you grab 5 items out of there and make decisions on them. Or do 30 minutes of the box a couple times a week until you get through that box for the week. So it's up to you. 1 box is not a terrible push usually. If it's a very emotional box, it might be harder and you might need to even back off of the 1 box a week and say, you know what, whatever I can get through in a week, as long as you're chipping away at it and doing something each week, you will get through it. But I love that you identified that yourself as well. And you're definitely on the right path to that. But breaking it down into smaller time chunks is going to help you out dramatically. So that was one of the main points that I wanted for everybody to know about those sentimental items. It's all about the smaller chunks, right? So really quickly, I want to say hi to some people who've hopped in. We have Eileen is here and Sue, Linda. Janice says, hello, beautiful. Hello. Stephanie's here and Alyssa, Nancy, and Kathleen. Susan says, decision fatigue slows me down and then I feel so defeated. Absolutely. I'm going to come right back to that because that is an amazingly good point. So Lynn says hi, and Shauna's here, and Peg and Terry. You're so welcome for covering it, for me covering this. It's something that so many people struggle with, I know. Yeah, Lori says it takes 15 minutes just to get set up. Sometimes when you are breaking a project down into smaller pieces, you might want to leave it set up while you're working on it. So leave that 1 box out and, the 3 boxes that you're sorting it into for the week. That way you can hop right into it and hop back out, or at least make it very easy to pull out that part of the project. You don't have to pull out all of the boxes that you could possibly need. You just need the box that you're sorting and a couple of decision boxes that they can get sorted into. So if you make it easy to put those away in a stack that's easy to pull out, or just leave them out for the week, then that can also be helpful. And it helps you keep track of where you left off. So I wanted to go back really quickly to Susan, the decision fatigue that slows her down and makes her feel defeated. Decision fatigue is a real thing. And it is so much higher. This is exactly what we're talking about with sentimental items. It's so much higher when there are emotions involved. So the nice thing with decision fatigue is, just like if you're training for a marathon, that first day that you go out to practice running, maybe you make it around the block and you're winded. And then the next day, maybe you make it around a block and a half. A month later, you're making it maybe 5 miles before you're getting that winded. It's the same thing with making decisions on your items. The more often you do it and practice using that part of your brain, that decision-making process, the easier it's going to get. When you practice it consistently, frequently over time, it does not have to be long time chunks, just frequently and consistently, then it is going to become easier because your brain is going to get used to those decision-making thoughts and questions that will help you make those keep or go decisions. And it will start coming up with those answers a lot faster over time. So that's why things like our small step cards, these declutter cards that are available in the online store at SuzannaKaye.com, these are a good way to break things down throughout the week into small little tasks that help you practice using that decision-making part of your brain. But overall, when you're breaking things down into small tasks more often, that is helping you practice that decision-making part of your brain. If you're waiting and doing larger projects much less frequently, because we don't usually have a whole lot of time to dedicate to organizing each week, right? So maybe once a month, a couple times a month, you're doing a 2-hour project. your brain is not getting enough practice. That would be like trying to practice for a marathon in, 3 hours twice a month. Your muscles are not going to get the training they need to work up to getting to that 5 miles and not getting winded, right? So it's the same way with practicing your brain and that decision making. Hopefully that makes sense. And I'm so glad you brought that up, though, because the decision fatigue is what is the hardest part about organizing in general, especially with sentimental items. So give yourself some grace as well. Especially at the beginning, don't feel defeated. Be proud of yourself that you tackled it at all and made some decisions that were hard. And when you are grateful to yourself and give yourself some grace, then you will look forward to the next session even more. So Marsha's here. Hey, Marsha. Kate says, thanks for covering it. You're so welcome. Hello, lovely Marie. Great to see you. Oh, sorry, Alyssa lost her connection. Lovely Marie says, oh, thank you for the Spark Life Binder. Received it Friday. So paperless is in progress. Yay. Oh, I'm so happy for you. I hope that you absolutely enjoy it. That's fantastic. Kathleen says, Kyle, you work on it for 15 minutes and set a timer, or 45 minutes and set a timer and take a break and then resume sorting at the same pace. Usually I do, 15 to 30 minutes, maybe a day or twice a day with a long break in between. So this is not where we're trying to have a large block of time and we're breaking it up. This is where we're doing a tiny bite and then waiting until another day. So we get a full day of rest. And then we also get the chance to be repeating this practice over time. So sometimes breaking things down, a larger project into a larger chunk of time is really good, like we do with our group hikes. But sometimes it's good when it's an emotional project to truly drag it out and do it maybe 15, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, several times a week. Good question. All right. Judy's here. Hi, Judy. Kathleen says, could, not Kyle. Figured there was a typo in there. Evelyn says, thanks. You're so welcome. All right. So we talked about how organizing for 2 hours on sentimental items or a box a day is a large commitment. And it's going to have that decision fatigue and wear you out. So using smaller time chunks more often, especially with the emotional items, is going to help you get through them faster and make better decisions. Now, the second point that I wanted to talk about was sentimental items and making the decisions on those sentimental items. Okay, so these items are much harder to make decisions on because our brain attaches so much more to them than just, do I need it or not, right? You have memories attached. Sometimes we associate them so strongly with the person that it becomes hard to tell the difference between the item and the person, sort of like holding on to the person or the event. So there are some thoughts that I want you to consider when you're looking at sentimental items. Some of these thoughts, first off, and just a bit of a disclaimer here. Depending on where you are in the process, if there is grief involved. So if you lost somebody, if it was a traumatic event, anything like that, if there's any grief involved, depending on where you are in the process, will depend on how much you can incorporate some of these thoughts and ideas. It is okay if you're not able to change these thoughts yet. So just for now, anything that you're not ready for, feel free, ignore it. All right. Now is not your time. It will be in the future. Save this video so that in the future you can come back to it, because there will be a time where you can handle it, this level. But if you've not already checked out the Grief and Organizing series, it's a 3-video series on my YouTube channel. Check that out, because I do talk about how with anything having to do with grief, you go in layers. And there will be some things that you can do right away and a lot of things that you can't. But over time, you will be able to handle more of these concepts, okay? So adjust these for where you are in your process mentally right now. Don't rush yourself. Don't let other people rush you, all right? So when you're ready, consider when you're looking at items, the item is not the person or the event. So keeping the item is not truly keeping the person or reliving the event. It is simply an item that's reminding you of them. So there are times where sometimes we feel subconsciously like part of the person is still part of the thing. And throwing out the thing is throwing out that part of the person, and it is not. Or throwing out the thing is throwing out what happened, and it is not. So readjusting in your brain that this is simply an item and it is not a person or an event, and there's no part of the person or the event that is actually attached to the item aside from that memory, that's an important step. When you're ready, make sure to try to think about that and really process that. And you'll probably be able to process that on a deeper level as you go through the process too. You might be able to process a little bit at first. And then as you go along in the grieving process and the healing process, you might be able to internalize it a little bit more. Also, think about when you're looking at the item, will you still have that memory even if you don't have that item? So many times, the item is only important to us really because of the memories that it brings back up. So it's not the item itself that's important, it's the memories. So here's an example that I actually brought with me today. I am wearing a soccer shirt. This soccer shirt is just a fun shirt that I found on my honeymoon in a thrift shop when we went to Ireland. And it's a really fun memory. I enjoy having the shirt because it brings back that memory, right? I keep the shirt because I have plenty of space. I still do enjoy wearing it sometimes, and it brings up that memory. It's a fantastic way to relive it. But if I needed more space in my closet and I was done wearing the shirt, I did not really like wearing the shirt anymore. If it was just hanging there as a memory, I would look at it and think, you know what? I still have the memory of going to the thrift shops in Ireland with my husband on our honeymoon and having so much fun in these little small town thrift shops, even if I did not have the shirt. So I could let go of the shirt because it's not the shirt that's important. It's that memory that we shared together, right? So a way that you can deal with if it is just a memory and the item itself is not as important as what the memory it brings up is take a picture of it. So I can guarantee you that if I ever do let go of this shirt, I will have a picture of it. Actually, I'm pretty sure I already have a picture of it. I'd probably make sure that I have a picture of it from our honeymoon photos from when we found it. So take a picture of items. A lot of times when you take a photo of the item, that will still spark the same memories as the item itself. And the photo takes up so much less space. Not only that, but you're more likely to actually look through the photos than to open the box of memorabilia and look through it. So there are some things where a photo is not the same. My teddy bear from when I was growing up, that was my mom's teddy bear when she was little. The touch and the feel of it is very important to me. The way that it, hugs around my body is important to me. So a picture would not be the same with that. But with the shirt, I don't have that tactile memory as much. It's not the comfort of the hugging of the bear and the feel of the now hairless bear's skin because all the hair has been just loved off and rubbed off. So the item itself is not important with the shirt, but it is with the bear. So think, do you still have the memory without the item? And is it the item itself that's important? Or is it just the memory? And if it's just the memory, consider taking a picture of it. Now, there are going to be a lot of things that it's just the memory of it, but you're not ready to let go of the item. That's okay. It's like an onion. There's a process. You're going to be able to get rid of some. And then 6 months later, go through it again and you'll get rid of more. 6 months later, go through it again, you'll get rid of more. You have to go through the process of letting go and let yourself grieve, letting go of the items and recover in order to let go of more. But taking a picture of it, it's fantastic. You can have a photo album, either a physical photo album or an album on your phone like I have of all of these pictures of different memorabilia. And I know for me, sometimes I stumble across that album on my phone and I'll scroll through it and I get to see all these memories again that I would never see because if they're in a box in my closet, I'm not opening up that box as often. And then finally, You can also ask the question, if you could only save 2 things per person. So in Jen's case, she was talking about her mom's things, her dad's things, her brother's things. If you could only save 2 things per each of those people without looking at the stuff first, just think off the top of your head, if you had only 2 things that were items to remember that person by, what 2 things would those be? And those things that you remember without even having to see the item, those things are the things that you will want to make sure to keep and cherish. And the rest of the items, you will now know that they are sort of the second tier of importance. Those 2 things are the most important thing. Then you can put things into perspective, the second tier items, because you have those 2 super important items that will always remind you of them. So work on letting go of the second tier items and the third tier items as you go along with your organizing. But knowing that you have 2 things at least for each person that are super important to you, that remind you of them the most, no matter what those 2 things are, that's going to help you let go of other items, because you will know that the most important things are protected and that what you're looking at is not one of those top 2. So that was kind of the overview of sentimental items and some of our mindsets with it. Really quickly, Lori says, please make a Spark t-shirt. Decision fatigue is a real thing, but I have a timer so I can do this. I love that. I really do need to. That makes me laugh so much. Thank you so much for that. Let me see if I can. I wanted to do a screenshot, but it won't let me do that right now. So I'll have to remember that, because that's hilarious. Janice says, when dealing with sentimental items, I have had luck with setting up a few broad categories for items to keep and using hanging folders in an upright bin like the incoming mailbox. I hope that makes sense. Absolutely. Yes, having a couple of broad categories really helps instead of trying to organize into too many categories. And with papers, having just a couple of different types of file folders, really helpful. Yeah, good one, Jana. Jane says, one thing I found as time passes, I will again go through items I kept, and some of those items I don't keep. I would get so emotional, I just closed up what I was looking at and decided another day. And that is so true. You know, that's part of the decision fatigue and having to go slowly with emotions. And over time, the more you do it, like I said, A, it's like a muscle. You're going to train yourself to be able to handle some of those emotions. And B, over time, you also separate from the most pain of the emotions as time goes on. So you can make more logical decisions because the emotions are not as raw. So yes, emotional items are absolutely one of those things where do your best the first time you go through them. And you are not going to get rid of everything that you will in the long run. And that's okay. So don't be frustrated with yourself if you don't let go of as much as you think you should, because you could go back later. Even once you finish sorting through all of them, you could just do a resort right away, because those first things that you looked at, it's been a while now, right? Now that muscle is stronger. Now those raw emotions are a little bit better. Now you've had some mental separation and healing time. So a little bit later on, yes, go back again. And like Jane said, you will let go of more. That's with everything when you organize. If you go through your closet, I guarantee, go through it again in 3 months, you'll let go of more and wonder why you kept some of the things that are in there, because decision fatigue is real. Yeah. Yep. Susan says, like peeling an onion, Jane. It is absolutely true. Jen says, I love the memories triggered by certain items. Absolutely. And that's what we're going to talk about a little bit next too, because we don't want to let go of those memories and the triggers, right? We want to honor those sentimental items. Oh, yay. Somebody says, hello, Susanna and everyone. Thank you so much for the group hike this past Tuesday. Oh, I'm so glad you liked it. Yay. I bought the gel pens and from Amazon on Tuesday and received it Wednesday. Can't wait to start using it today. Oh, yay. That's fantastic. Yes, love, love, love that you loved the group hikes. They're such a great way to get work done with the project and make it much more fun. Speaking about sentimental items is very important to me. Thank you for discussing it. You're so welcome. And Terry says, great idea. Jen says, I became paralyzed at the thought of picking just 2. And that's okay. When I say pick just 2, that does not mean that you're only keeping 2. So don't think about it that way. Think about, if there was a fire, what 2 things would you grab first to save from the house? But just because you've identified what those two are in your brain does not mean that the rest have to go. It does not mean that the rest aren't important. It just means you know what two things are the most important to you. And the rest, if you're able to keep it, then fantastic, keep it. There's nothing that says that you can't keep it all as long as it's not causing you any problems in your life. So keep as much as you want to. But knowing your top two means that you know what to protect and what to honor. Jana says, and if you keep something three months ago, you may find a better item to save this week and can let the other one saved item go because you now have a better item to replace the other one. It's so true. Yeah, like you kept a pair of scissors and then you find that you have, oh, I've got a nicer pair of scissors. Those old ones can go. Yes, that's a good one. So we talked about breaking things down into smaller time commitments. Don't organize for long periods of time or try to get through a whole lot in one period. And we talked about rethinking the way that you might think about some sentimental items. This is definitely not an easy thing to do. It takes time, it takes practice, and depending on where you are in those emotions, you might not be ready for some of that yet. But when you are, try out some of these thoughts. And then we're talking last, the third point, about honoring the memories by preserving the items. So like I mentioned with the thinking about what two items are the most important that you know that you definitely want to save per person or per event, that's a great way to know what to really focus on preserving. So if you're going to keep an item that's truly sentimental, you need to take care of it, right? Because there are so many times where we fall into the trap of having boxes and boxes of sentimental items that we're not going through, but that's not honoring those items. You know, we might need to avoid it for a little bit because mentally we can't take it on. But once we are able to mentally go through some of those items, we need to make sure that what we keep, we're actually taking care of, or else it's not honoring the memory. So keeping something in a box where it starts to degrade and fall apart and yellow and or gather dust or never be seen is not a way of honoring that item or that memory, right? So one of the ways that we honor the memories and the items that we do choose to keep is by preserving them. Now, this could be, taking dresses and clothing and things like teddy bears to the dry cleaner to have them archivally cleaned and sealed up. That's one way of preserving them. Using archival quality paper and storage boxes, that's a way of preserving them. Making sure that things are kept up and repaired if they need to be repaired, that's a way of preserving them. So there are so many things that we need to do in order to actually preserve and protect these items that we do choose to keep. So knowing what your most important two are, you know what to invest your most time and money in preserving. Also, along with preserving, sometimes, for the most part, I say if it's truly memorabilia that you want to be able to enjoy, don't just leave it in a box. So instead of preserving the wedding dress, maybe you can repurpose it. For me, my wedding dress, I'm having turned into lampshades because the lace on it is just so beautiful. I won't be wearing the dress again. There's some damage along the bottoms that it really can't be worn again by other people because I put it through its paces. So I will be taking some of it and I will be having lampshades created with some of the lace from the dress. So then I can enjoy that forever. And then I will be donating a lot of that extra lace and beautiful fabric to something like angel gowns. So repurposing an item is a great way to get it out of the box and into your site. Also, repurposing an item could be as simple as sometimes I wear my shirt as pajamas, repurposing memorabilia clothing as pajamas or something like that. You could have it made into a pillow. You can repurpose items without having to destroy them, such as a pen cup. That's, maybe your kid made you an old mug or bought you a funny mug when they were younger. Great pen cup. Plant holders and plant pots, things like that. So repurposing items to use as different storage containers or to use in different ways gets them out of the box and lets you enjoy the memory so much more, right? Also, some items aren't meant to be repurposed, but they're great to display. So if you have items that are memorabilia that you can put on display so you can actually see and enjoy them instead of them sitting in a box, that's a great way to honor the memories as well. So we want to actually honor the memories of what we do keep as much as we can, instead of just keeping things in a box where we don't see it. So in order to honor these memories, for one, we probably don't want to keep too much. Like I said, though, it's a process. So you can't necessarily get down to what you will keep finally. But knowing what the top 2 or so items are that are truly important will help you know what to preserve now versus putting those in a box as well and possibly having any damage happen to them. So really quickly in the comments, Peg says, each Christmas I gave each kid an ornament. Recently, I sorted the ornaments and gave each of my adult children their ornaments. I'm sure they are not as emotionally attached as I was. You know what? We do that as well in our family. And Kayla will be getting a box of ornaments that she can choose to do with as she pleases that she's gotten from through over the years. And that's a great thing to do, you know, and then the kids can decide whether they want to keep it or not. But I love that. Very, very fun. Jane agrees with what we were talking about earlier. And Ellen says, she says that her name did not come up earlier. She has every birthday and anniversary card that her parents have given each other. Oh, that's sweet. That's awesome. And in the Pathfinders group after this at noon. So for our members in our private group at noon for our private Thursday talk, we will be going more in depth about this. I will be talking about more tips and things to know. And I will also share about greeting cards, a little bit about photos, letters, clothing, things like that, and how to repurpose or honor those items, as well as answering any questions and having a further discussion. So all of my members, remember that later on in about 30 minutes, we'll go in depth and I'll talk about greeting cards as one of those. Yeah, she says her parents were married for 40 years. I can't seem to get rid of them. And that is okay. And I don't remember if you're a member or not, but if you are, then you might enjoy what we talk about the greeting cards and the unique way that I store greeting cards to make it more of a thing that we can honor. Lori says, I use Thursday Talks to listen to and do dishes at the same time. I love that. Practicing multitasking so I can devote time to tackle projects that need more concentrated attention, like going through sentimental items. Yes, and that's why Thursday Talks, we also have the podcast, remember. So if you go to the podcast page, you can always listen to the audio if you're on a walk, driving, doing the dishes, organizing items, whatever you would like. Yeah, Alyssa says, I have a problem letting go of birthday cards too. Absolutely. Jen says, scrapbooks are a wonderful way to keep cards or pictures of them if you do digital like I do. Absolutely. Yes. I love those scrapbooks and digital versions of the cards for sure. All right. Well, let's do a quick recap. I've absolutely loved our conversation today. You have so many great ideas and things to share. So like we mentioned from Jen's email, sentimental items can be very overwhelming, and organizing for 2-hour time periods or a whole box a day when it's sentimental items especially can be overwhelming because your brain's doing extra heavy lifting with all those emotions. So using the smaller time commitments, especially with emotional items, is going to help out. And also when we're thinking about sentimental items, when you're ready in your process mentally, here are some ways to think about it and some questions to ask. So remember that the item isn't the person or event. They are not stored within the item. There's no part of them in the item. The item is just an item that is reminding you of that person or event. You can think about, would you still have the memory if you did not have the item? So would it be the same? Would the memory still come up the same? So for me, this shirt, a picture of the shirt would bring up the memory just the same as wearing the shirt. My teddy bear, not the same, because the way that the bear feels just holding it, that is a huge part of the memory too. So think about, is it the item or the memory that's important? If it's the memory that's important and the item itself is not as important, then taking a picture of it, like taking a picture of my shirt, will bring up that same memory and I will have better access to it. It'll be more protected, less storage space. So taking a picture of a lot of sentimental items is a really helpful way to still have that memory without having to store it or worry about protecting it and preserving it. And then think, if you could only save 2 things per person, what would they be? Or per event? So what are the 2 most important things? That does not mean that you have to let go of the rest. It does not mean you even have to have a goal of letting go of all the rest. It just means you know which 2 things are the most important that you can protect right now, preserve them, display them, honor them the most. And as you're going through the rest of the things, you know that you have the safety blanket of you already have those 2 most important things identified. So you don't have to worry about if you still need more in order to have all those memories. And then we talked about honoring the memories by preserving the items. Just putting them in a box that you never open up and look at is not honoring those items. So in order to honor those items, if they cannot be repurposed or displayed, definitely try to preserve them. So have them professionally preserved or use the right type of storage boxes, repair them, clean them, maintain them. If you can repurpose them, that's fantastic. Something that you can actually use, like using the shirt as a regular shirt or pajamas sometimes, that's one way that I can sort of repurpose the shirt and actually make it useful. So actually using it or displaying it. So being able to actually see it instead of having it in a box, that's what our goal is. So tell me, what one small step based on this do you plan to take? So are you planning to go through a little bit of your memorabilia or maybe create a display area, repurpose an item? What are you planning to do based on what we talked about today? And for all of my Pathfinders, remember that we will be talking more about this at noon in about 20 minutes over in your private group. So join me there. We will also be talking about the greeting cards and how to handle greeting cards, letters, kids' artwork and papers, some ideas about repurposing. We'll talk about all of those great things for handling some of this memorabilia and getting through all of it. So if you're not already a member, I encourage you to become one. You can do so by stopping by SuzannaKaye.com and going to the store or using the link in the video description. We would love to have you as a Pathfinder because not only do you have the bonus group hikes and the bonus podcast, also, or the bonus Thursday talks and the bonus podcast, you also have group hikes and monthly challenge guides and so many other benefits. So really quickly in the comments, let's see. Okay, Stephanie says, my mother and dad are gone now, but I found the love letters my dad sent to my mother while in World War II. They're in a hat box that sits on my shelf. Oh, I love that. That's fantastic. Hopefully in that hat box, make sure that they have some acid-proof paper or acid-free paper in between them. So that way it will preserve that paper, those actual letter papers, so much better, because I would hate for anything to happen to those letters. So maybe put them in an acid-free box or some acid-free papers in between for archiving. But that is such a beautiful thing. I love that. Lori says, what a wonderful way to encourage people that are dealing with grief, but have the responsibility of decluttering, downsizing, and sorting. Oh, yes, thank you. It is so difficult, and most of us end up at some point having to do that. And it is one of the hardest organizing projects that you'll ever have. Candy says, I have boxes of cards I've received. I still have all the cards from my first boyfriend, and I'm now 71. Oh, that's so cute. Well, you will enjoy the bonus Thursday talk in the private Pathfinders group at noon, because I've got some fun ways to deal with greeting cards. Susan says, I worry that I will forget the memory without the item to trigger it. Yes, that's why take a picture. Absolutely take a picture, because that picture will trigger that memory. And I know for me, there are a lot of memories I don't even think about until I scroll through that album of pictures. So I would probably not think very often about the thrift store that we went to on our honeymoon until I see the shirt. And then I remember, and having a picture of it when I scroll through that album, it's just so nice. Every once in a while, I scroll through that album and have all those memories come up. You can even have multiple albums if you wanted to for different types of memories. Jen says, OMG, I missed the beginning of your talk and just realized I am the Jen you were talking about who sent an email about sentimental items. Thank you. Oh, you're so welcome. I did not know if you would want to have your last name shared or anything. So that's why I did not mention your full name, but since you are actually willing to share that it is you, then yes, it is you. And I'm so glad that you were able to catch the talk. Yay, fantastic. Paula says, thank you so much for your great ideas. This area is my hardest challenge. Oh, you are not alone. I'm glad that you're here, Paula. Jane says that she did the same thing with Christmas ornaments. Evelyn says she definitely needs to go through things. That's some of her small steps that she's going to take. Susan says, what do you do with all those memory boards from funerals? Took a while to make it, and it takes up a lot of room. A picture is also a really good way to store the memory board. So you can have a picture and let go of the board itself, especially since the pictures these days that we take, even with just our phones, they are such high quality that you can zoom in really well and see things really well nowadays. It's not like the old days. So a picture of it, especially a digital picture, is really helpful. Oh, Paula says, love the wedding dress idea. Mine has been in a box for 49 years. Yeah, get it out of the box so you can enjoy it. You can make it into a pillow cover or make it into a sash around your curtains, or there's so many different things that you can do. You can put it in the background of a frame that has a wedding photo in it. Well, if you get a chance to do the Pathfinder bonus at noon, there's so many things that I want to share, and they're great ways to enjoy that dress again. Ellen says, hi, it's Ellen. If I became a Path member now, can I participate in the Path discussion today? Yes, if you join the paper Path right now, then once you join it, you can go into the online library that it will give you the login for and find the link to the Facebook group and hop over to that Facebook group, okay? The great thing is, even if you don't get through doing that in time, then there will be a replay available in your online library for the next 6 months of each of these bonus talks. So if you do become a member, then you also have that replay available if you aren't able to hop on in time. Tina says she'll go through stuff in small steps and figure out how to honor stuff. That's great. Lori says, I'm not going to work on sentimental items in the near future, and that is absolutely fine. Boundaries are good. But stirring your ideas in my mind for future use. When I start going through photos, I'll set up a space to keep things out to work on in sprints. That's fantastic. Yeah, and it works with papers too. Keeping a project out so you can just work on it one bite at a time is helpful. I'm not quite sure what you're asking, Parker, so if you could rephrase it, then maybe I can help you out. And yep, on Ellen says, great. Yes. And what I'll do is I'll hop over to the Facebook group before we go live and approve any outstanding requests. So if you can join and get that request in, then that would be fantastic, and I can get you approved. Kathleen says, if you bought the binder, are you already a member of Pathfinders? No. So the membership is different from the binder. The binder is simply a binder. I do give you the online library and support resources, but it's not the membership. So you don't get all of the group hikes. You don't get the bonus path. You don't get challenge guides and all those benefits. The membership is a completely separate thing. Great question, Kathleen. Absolutely. Maria says, is there a cost to become a Pathfinder? Thank you. Yes, there is. Yeah. Right now, it's only $25 a month, and you can cancel it anytime. So there's no long-term commitment at all, but $25 a month right now. And when you sign up, whatever price you sign up at, as long as you remain an active member, you'll stay that price. So when the price goes up, which it will, then you can stay at the $25 a month. Great questions. I love it. Okay. Well, really quickly, coming up, we have August 15th, which I cannot believe it is next week already. This month has flown by. August 15th is our 7-day declutter challenge. It's a free challenge, and it will go on in the public Home Organizing Challenges Facebook group. You can register to get reminders and to get the checklist that you can download. So the register link is in the description of this video. Also, for my members, our next group hikes are going to be August 13th, 23rd, and 25th. Just a reminder, those group hikes, it's 2-hour work sessions. We hop on Zoom live, work next to each other side by side. I share tips, answer questions, and we do chunks of work, 20-minute sprints of work with some great music, and we get a lot done. So those are our next group hikes for my members. And for everybody, remember that 2 weeks from now, yes, 2 weeks from now on August 25th is the webinar called Downsizing and Letting Go. So right now, if you register for the webinar ahead of time, it is only $25. After the event, it will be $30 for a limited time until that comes out of the library and is no longer available. If you are a member, remember, go through the link in your online library because you get $5 off. So that's another member benefit. You get discounts on the webinars and other certain events. So hopefully you can join me August 25th. Stop by SuzannaKaye.com and click on the store link to register for that webinar. And next month, just because we are talking about sentimental items, heads up, next month's webinar is about photo organizing. So hopefully you can join me for that one. It's not in the store yet. It will be at the beginning of next month. So just keep your eyes open for that. Peggy says, we will be making a very long distance move next year and we'll have to liquidate nearly everything. This will be really hard when it comes to my mom's special china and crystal. Yes. I'm so sorry. That is absolutely some of the hard stuff. It'll feel so good once you have gotten through and liquidated so much, but the process of it is hard. Hopefully it's an exciting move for you though. I'm super happy for you that you get to do a fun move, but I'm here. Hopefully we can help support you through it. And hopefully the membership can help you too, because those group hikes are great time periods to be able to go through some of those items and those organizing projects and ask questions and get support and motivation. So that membership might be really helpful. Anybody who's going through a lot of sentimental items, then the Path membership with those group hikes, it really can help because there's something about having other people, quote unquote, in the room with you that makes a big difference when you're going through emotional items. Even though it's just on Zoom and, we're just watching each other's video, we just know that we're there and we connect with each other on a whole new level and a deeper level because we get to see each other each week. So consider if you're having a tough time going through sentimental items, we would love to support you with the Path membership. So hop over, check it out. Kathleen says, thank you. You're so welcome. All right. Well, I love you all so much. Remember noon, all of my Pathfinders, I will be over in your private Facebook group and we will be doing our exclusive talk. And I will talk about those greeting cards, letters, kids' artwork and papers, repurposing items, great ideas for some wedding dress items and things like that. And answering any questions about what you might get stuck with when dealing with sentimental items. But most of all, remember, you've got this. You're doing absolutely amazing. There's no rush, one small bite at a time, right? All right, go check out SuzannaKaye.com and I will see you very, very soon. I love you. Bye, beautiful.